Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Fight Addicts. Get ready to explore the past, present, and future of MMA with your hosts, Seth Oliver and Ben Korn.
What's happening, everybody? Welcome to episode number 21 of the Fight Addicts. This episode was recorded on August the 18th, 2019. First, let me just say thank you guys so much for the support. The numbers have been up on the podcast, and they look like they're steadily growing. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. We really appreciate y'all listening to this. So, in this episode, we discussed the aftermath of UFC 241. Ben and I both agreed that it was hands down the best card of the year. We had a lot of fun, and we hope that you guys did too watching those fights. Now, we only go over the three big fights due to a time constraint on my end because I had something I had to do that evening, and we really just wanted to touch those big three. Also, I've kind of had some ideas about how to break up the preliminary card and main card in the future. But anyways, for this episode, we just talk about Stipe versus DC, Diaz versus Pettis, and Romero versus Costa. I mean, we briefly touch on some other ones, but those are the main ones that we talk about. Finally, we answer some listener questions, and we argue a lot about Adesanya versus Costa in this episode, just due to talking about the potential of that, and then we had a listener question about it. So, as always, we had a great time recording it, and we hope that you guys have a great time listening to it. Here is episode number 21 of the Fight Addicts. Ben, as always, thank you so much for coming on the show. How's everything going today?
What's up, man? Everything is good. Everything is going better than Daniel Cormier's last night win.
Yeah, it was a rough night for him.
Indeed.
That's such a crazy finish. But as always, we'll get into that whenever we talk about our 241 recap. I'm going to go ahead and look at the facts from the fights. And these are all courtesy of Dana White from the post-fight press conference. The attendance was 17,304. The live gate for the event was 3.24 million, which was the highest gate in California history. Yep, for an MMA event. Fight of the night went to Paulo Costa and Yoel Romero, and then performances of the night went to Kama Worthy and Stipe Miocic. So before we get into our actual takeaways from UFC 241, we have some things to address from our last episode. We started In Your Face with Melody Grace. So I guess that you're a proud dad because she won, getting 2 picks, tying Wicked MMA, but he did not get the main event correct. So she walks away with the victory in the first ever segment of it.
Derek Brunson getting it done for my girl.
The always reliable Derek Brunson getting it done, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. So that was fun. Happy that we got to do that. The other thing was our Pick'em game with MMA marks. This one, not so good on our end. So going into it, for those that aren't aware, we have a Pick'em game that we do with MMA marks for UFC pay-per-views. Going into 241, they were up 141 to 128. So after UFC 241, these guys are beating us 159 to 119. And the individual standings had to change. Ricky from MMA Marks is now in the lead with 84 total points. He got 20 just based off UFC 241 and was the only person that came in the positive, like in points. Buddy finished with -2, bringing his total down to 75. I finished with -2, bringing my total down to 67. And Ben, you're still holding down last place.
There we go.
Got -7
Yeah.
in the event, which brings your total down to 52. So, stacking the odds against us, making the comeback hard, but maybe we can pull it out by the end of the year.
I'd just like to say that my lock didn't lose. I don't mind being in last place, but, I don't have it. Yoel Romero won that fight. It's okay. I'm not saying that my points should change or anything. I don't mind being in last, but watching that fight, Yoel Romero won that fight.
Yep, and we have some listener questions about that, so we'll go ahead and we'll give our details about that whenever I read those questions. So, takeaways from UFC 241. Ben, I always ask you, what was your overall assessment of the card? And if you were to grade it, like A, B, C, how would you grade the card?
It's an A. That's an A card right there.
I totally agree with you.
Yeah. Even going down to the crazy Kama Worthy thing that happened.
Right.
going all the way to like having that added in there is just a little sweetener as somebody who's like a minus 1,000 getting knocked out on pay-per-view.
Yeah.
That's fun. Like that's why you watch it.
Right.
That's why you have the fights.
That was something that I was thinking about because I was like extremely hyped up for this card. It kind of had the feeling of like an Alabama football game to me, just like a huge game going into it. Is like the feeling that
Just
I
a
related
routing, just an absolute destruction of some like Division II school you're gonna score 70 points on.
Nope. Talking about the tight SEC games that we have to play every year, but
not talking about those UT versus UMass games that are nail biters.
But yeah, so that's kind of the feeling that I had going into it, and so that's something that like, well, what you just said right there that I really appreciate about this, because there are times, as with other sports, so like football, you know what the schedule's going to be, you know what games you're like for sure going to win. But as we saw last night, like you just said, I think that Smith was like a negative 750 or 850 favorite.
He was negative 1,000. He was negative 1,000 on the screen at Buffalo Wild Wings last night. It's a negative 1,000 next to his name.
Yeah, so negative 1,000 favorite.
Yeah, $1,000 to make $100.
And he gets knocked out in the first round.
Yeah.
And so that just shows like the unpredictability of the sport, and I think that that's definitely like my favorite aspect of it. And that's something that you don't get with other sports. Like, there's definitely upsets, but it's nothing like MMA.
4-ounce gloves change everything.
Correct.
Because it wasn't like he was losing, and it wasn't like it was the most devastating knockout shot of all time. He just caught him with something that changed his equilibrium and then finished hard. Right. And it was like, well, there it is. That's it.
Yeah. Crazy. So, working our way down the card, the main event, Stipe Miocic defeats Daniel Cormier via 4th round TKO. Something that I wanted to read to you that I found on Instagram, and this is credit to @WWLMMA on Instagram. So July 29, 2017, John Jones TKOs Daniel Cormier at the Honda Center in Anaheim, California. Over 2 years later, August 17, 2019, same exact arena, Stipe Miocic TKOs Daniel Cormier at the Honda Center. Bad building for Daniel Cormier. The only 2 times he's been finished has been in Anaheim. Also, his teammate, Cain Velasquez at AKA, was finished by Junior Dos Santos in the first round at the Honda Center in Anaheim, California.
Where was the Ngannou fight that Cain got blasted at?
I think that was in Phoenix.
Okay.
But yeah, so Anaheim is just...
the irony. The irony of that happening in Phoenix, that he's going to rise from the ashes. Nope, he's going to blow his knee out and be gone again for eternity. Yeah.
And go into pro wrestling.
Yeah, he can do a Hunan Rana. Like, I saw highlights of him doing some stuff, and I'm like, wow, good for you, man.
Yeah.
Make that money. Work on your Spanish. I heard that he's not exactly the best at speaking Spanish.
Yeah, I also heard that.
I mean, when he did Ultimate Fighter against Fabricio Verdum, everybody was like, Verdum's Spanish is a lot better than Cain's.
With the guy that has the brown pride tattooed on his chest.
Yeah, exactly. The guy that would be considered a security threat group if he ever went to prison instantly, because he's associated with a gang if he ever comes to prison in Tennessee. But yeah.
Yeah. So I just thought that was interesting, though. It's kind of like a cursed spot for AKA whenever it comes to big fights.
Yeah, man. Also, it helps that you're fighting the only guy to defend the heavyweight title 4 times, and John Jones. Those are probably the times that you're most apt to get knocked out. They just happen to be in Anaheim.
Yeah. Or we could also look at it as the guy that got beat by Struve, as you like to point out.
Yeah.
When it comes to Stipe. So, but yeah, no,
Struve's highlight. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Also, in the last episode that we had, I referenced a video from MMA On Point when I was talking about fight statistics. So I wanted to clear that up a little bit, especially after Stipe's win. So out of 37 title rematches in UFC history, the winner of the first bout, who entered the second bout as a champion, won 82% of the time before this fight. So like the odds in the exact situation that Cormier and Stipe were in were very, very high for Cormier going into it. And so I didn't have all the specifics last time, so I wanted to bring that into this just to show kind of the odds that Stipe defied in that whenever we look at the past in UFC history.
But when I think to the past, I'm thinking of the times that it went the other way.
So like the other
Like
18%.
yeah, like automatically I'm like, well, Matt Serra was the champion when he rematched GSP. How did that go? Like he had the belt on him. He took it from GSP, and then they had a rematch, and there was no reason for a third fight.
Yeah, that's definitely an exception though. For
Or
that fight.
when GSP fought Matt Hughes. Matt Hughes won the first time. Then he didn't win 2 more times.
Mhm.
I'm trying to think of other rematchy ones. Yeah, man. I mean, it all depends on who it is.
Yeah,
Randy and Chuck.
Yeah,
Randy won the
different.
first one. Yeah.
Definitely different variables every single night. You never know what's going into play. But I just thought that those were interesting statistics that I felt needed to be brought up.
It depends on the factors on the night. Like
Yeah, different.
you were
variables.
like, yeah, it's just different and that's exactly what I'm saying. Like that, I agree with you.
Yeah,
As far as it's unpredictable. I mean, like it's unpredictable, but at the same time, like as long as something weird doesn't happen, Mickey Gall is going to murder Diego Sanchez. But on the night that they had the fight, Diego won because Mickey Gall's kidneys failed.
right.
It's like, well, oh,
Yeah,
if the round had been like 2-3 seconds longer in the first BJ Penn and Jens Pulver fight, he taps, but the horn sounded before he tapped.
mm-hmm.
He was getting armbarred. He was going to lose, and he tapped, but it was after the horn, so they kept going, and BJ gassed because he didn't get beaten as a child as much as Jens did. And it's like, yeah, he just toughed it out with like grit and was made of stronger stuff than BJ was on that night.
Yeah.
And then eventually talent went out. Eventually BJ managed to become what BJ was and get a run on Ultimate Fighter to humiliate him.
Mm-hmm.
To be like, yeah, well, let's do it again. I want it back.
Right. Yeah. So going back to Cormier and Miocic, what was your main takeaway from that fight? If you just had to pull one single point away from it, what would you say that is?
Daniel Cormier had a terrible game plan to try and like Anderson Silva him.
Yeah, we're very
just
similar.
Standing
on
there
that.
with his hands down. He should have wrestled more. Yeah, it just kind of ruins everything as far as if he wasn't going to retire.
Right.
If he was going to retire, that's fine. If he would just be like, look, man, I'm happy with my position and everything. I'm out. I'm not going to go get beat up by John Jones. I'm done.
Yeah.
Like, that's one thing, and that would have been fine. But, like, yeah, now Stipe's the champ, and, like, I don't know, maybe he did call out John Jones. I couldn't tell. Like, I can't tell what he's saying.
Yeah.
But, yeah, like, I mean, nobody really is clamoring for John Jones versus Stipe, right?
I wouldn't say clamoring, but I'm sure that everybody would love to see it. Because I remember when John teased it a couple months ago, a bunch of the fans went crazy over the thought of it.
I weirdly think that Stipe would beat him. I know that that's heresy.
I do too because of recency bias. Because you look at Stipe just beating DC, and then I look at John Jones versus Thiago Santos, and I would say, yeah, like a more like well-composed, sticking to his game plan Stipe would probably tune up Jones.
Well, okay.
At heavyweight.
Let's say that you have 2 John Joneses, right? You have super technical John Jones that's going to go out there and jab and beat up guys that are smaller than him. The way that he did, like, Santos and Smith. Like, point fight people to a decision, be smart. Even Rampage. Like, just kick his knee backwards, all that garbage. Like, stay at range until they tire out and then kill him. But, like, if you go back to early John Jones, where he was just like, I'm going to empty the gas tank and spin like crazy and German suplex Stefan Bonner and, like, crucifix Matyshenko. And, like, the Vladimir Matyshenko fight is one of the most impressive things I've ever seen in MMA. Because, like, a lot of people don't know who that guy is. And it's like, that guy fought for the belt, man. and he gets thrown down like a child and crucifixed, and he's a good grappler. Like, his key is wrestling.
Yeah.
And it's just like, nope, apparently not.
Not when
Yeah.
you're fighting Johnny Bones.
No,
so.
apparently not. So, like, I think that if that guy were to fight Stipe, somehow I don't think he finishes Stipe. Like, Stipe stood in there against Ngannou going crazy. Stipe stood in there with Overeem. Like, Jones ain't flurrying on him like that. Jones is not going at him with that kind of power.
Yeah.
He's
well,
been
and
in,
Jones isn't known for his like one-shot knockout power either, you know? Like, he's definitely finished guys. I mean, like we said earlier, he finished DC, but it's not just like a one-shot sleeper kind of thing.
usually.
And I'm like you, I don't think that he flourished Stipe.
Yeah. I mean, like, I think that if he beats Stipe, it's going to be with some fancy nonsense. Like, I think he's going to hit him with something spinny or some kind of, like, flying something. But if they stay with a technical aspect of it, I think Stipe will beat him. Because Stipe's used to fighting bigger dudes that are not necessarily more technical, but striker-wise more dangerous. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And DC, while he did slam him in the second round, as I said he would, yeah, man, if DC can't hold you down, then I don't feel like John Jones really holds you down. I mean, DC controlled him pretty good at moments in that fight.
Especially in the first round.
Yeah, but he didn't finish him.
Right.
And I think that's a big key to it.
Yeah. And that was my takeaway from it, exactly what you said. I think that it was a bad game plan on DC's part, and him not sticking to his game plan and falling in love with his hands is what lost him the heavyweight championship. So
Yeah.
I hate it for DC because he seems to be a great guy. Everybody always compliments him, but I guess he's not going to have the fairy tale ending, at least if he is to retire off of this fight.
Yeah, he needs to retire.
Yeah. Well, we'll go ahead and get into that. Potential opponents for these guys next.
Yeah, DC should retire. If he's going to fight someone else, he could be he could have a trilogy fight with Stipe. I'm not going to get mad at that.
Yeah.
If they run that back again and say he won 15 minutes, he won a normal fight. Like,
Yeah.
you know, so let's do it again. See what happens. See if he keeps his hands up. See if he shoots more. Things like that. I could see DC fighting Jones again.
Really? After this fight?
Yeah.
As in
Still.
just like a drop down to light heavyweight to try to get that belt back? Or what?
If he did, yeah. Why not? It's the only fight to make. If Jones is like, I'm not moving up, and it's like, oh, I'm going to kill Dominic Reyes or, you know.
Corey Anderson or...
Yeah, these guys. Exactly. You think they're going to outsell Daniel Cormier on pay-per-view? He's going to do like 5 times the number with the right opponent.
No, I
It's sorta
agree.
like-
He definitely does. I just don't know if... I don't know how that plays now that he lost to Stipe. You know, I think that kind of makes things, I guess, awkward in a sense for them to make that fight. Because I feel like the whole appeal of it was Jones is the only guy that can beat DC. Like, DC's never lost a round at heavyweight. He was undefeated at heavyweight prior to this fight. Like, Jones is his kryptonite, but Jones always tests positive. So it's like, that's the key that you're playing with. But now it's like, oh, so Stipe can do it too. So it's like, we'll tell. I mean, Jones will win again.
Stipe can... Well, yeah, that's fine, though. Like, all of that is true. I'm not trying to argue that it's a good fight to make. I'm arguing that it's a money fight to make, and it's very similar to whenever Kat Zingano, like, blew out her knee completely, and they were like, well, it's Miesha Tate again. It's like, did you watch the first fight, guys? She's going to get her arm broken again. Absolutely. There's no question that Miesha Tate loses to Ronda Rousey 1,000 times out of 1,000. But it's going to sell. It's going to be the coolest pay-per-view ever because we're going to put it on with Chris Weidman versus Anderson Silva rematch. Double rematch. And we'll sell it for more money. It was more expensive, that pay-per-view.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's how the business works.
Yeah.
So.
But it wasn't because everyone was like, oh, Miesha is going to win. It was more these two girls hate each other.
Yeah, they sold that storyline.
You see a little girl-on-girl violence. 2 hot chicks, and one of them might get a compound fracture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when looking at it, I'm with you. I really want to see Stipe versus DC3.
I don't want to see that. I want him to retire.
Oh, you said you don't want to see it?
No, I want him to
so,
retire.
So you just said you're okay with it?
I said I'm okay with it. I said it's the most sensible fight to make.
Gotcha.
Like,
my bad on that.
It's kind of like you saying, hey, guess what? They're going to do a rematch between Mark Hunt and Melvin Manhoff tomorrow in bare knuckle. Well, I'll watch it, but it's not like I think it's good for Mark Hunt.
Yeah.
Like, the guy has CTE, man. He shouldn't be out there getting punched in the head, but he's a bad man.
Right.
I'll watch him punch someone in the head. You know? I'm an enabler, brother. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess then we're a little different because I really want to see it now after the way that it finished, especially just with DC winning those first 3 rounds. I don't know. I think there's a lot left for them to really market a trilogy fight between those two.
I want to prop bet on if DC loses the 3rd fight, if Rogan sticks a mic in his face.
What did you think about that?
I will
he
take
did after
that
that fight. Yeah,
I tweeted that out seconds before it happened. Like, the second that they call it is all over, I was like, here comes Stipe's Waterboy speech, and here comes the post-concussion Joe Rogan interview. And then he did it, and I was like, oh, well, I guess we're not going to do the thing we said we were going to do. I mean, it's not him that makes that decision.
Yeah.
It's a guy in a truck that says winner and loser, and he goes and does it like a robot. I couldn't do it, man. I'd be like, no. If I saw him crying, I'd be like, nope. He's a grown man who needs a moment. We don't need to put this out there to like literally anytime he turns on a computer for the rest of his life, anything he says will be responded to by a hater posting a GIF of him crying.
Yeah.
Like, that is so hard, man.
It is, especially his kids too. Yeah. That's what I think about.
Exactly.
Just them getting on the internet and seeing it. But anyways, if we're not to see Stipe versus DC3, if DC does retire, which I think is the best option if he doesn't get that trilogy fight, I think that we'll probably see Stipe versus Ngannou too. And at the moment, well, this is a listener question, so I'll save it for that. All right, co-main event. Nate Diaz defeats Anthony Pettis via unanimous decision. Anthony Pettis posted a picture after the fight on Instagram showing his broken right foot. Did you see that?
Yeah, I just thought of the tweet because somebody was like, surprise, surprise, Showtime broke something. I was like, yeah, seriously.
Yeah, so
his
something
bones are like Brandon Vera's face.
Just soft as can be.
Yeah.
Yeah. So something that we talked about before the fight was that we were really, really interested in seeing those guys grapple on the ground. So I don't know about you, but I was pretty proud of what we saw, and a bunch of grappling exchanges and transitions in the fight.
Yeah, I mean, it made me really happy that like when it did hit the floor, Pettis held his own and almost guillotined him. Are we in agreement on that?
Yes.
Like when he jumped guard and was adjusting it, I was like, he might choke him out.
Yeah.
And there was like a moment where I thought it was real. And then I saw how close he was to getting out. They changed the camera angle. And I was like, okay, he's fine. He'll be all right. But there was a moment where I was like, I told everybody that Anthony Pettis is a lot slicker on the ground than anybody gives him credit for.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Yeah. But it was really interesting to see how it all played out.
Showtime kept hitting that same transition that he hit on Benson Henderson, where it's like, I've got your hooks in on your back and you're lying on top of me, and he just rolls over. Like Anthony Pettis can roll over 3 times.
I was about to say, I'm pretty sure that he did it 3 times. That was crazy.
Insane.
Yeah. So, main takeaway from the co-main event.
That Nick Diaz follows my Twitter. I hope he does. That Nate Diaz follows my Twitter and he calls out Jorge Masvidal. That's what he did. That was the takeaway.
Gotcha. I thought that you legitimately meant that he followed you on Twitter. I was like,
no,
you didn't tell me that.
No.
But yeah, I got what you're saying now. I I would say that mine was that Diaz's cardio is still extremely effective and can still win him fights even after a 3-year layoff. Even though
he said his cardio wasn't that good.
He like oddly gassed though towards the end of the first round.
Yeah.
Because I remember thinking, I was like, well, this is kind of strange. I mean, I understand he's been off for 3 years, but it's like he's a Diaz. And then in the second and third, it's like, okay, he adjusts his game plan and he's all good.
Part of me wonders, like, if nobody's ever been like, you shouldn't, like, smoke. You should vape. Like, smoking is going to hurt your lungs regardless of what you're smoking. Like, inhaling smoke is going to affect your cardio negatively. Now, if your cardio is able to do a triathlon, who cares? You know, that's what Diaz would say. But, you know, it's just like it's like Connor's going around taking shots of Proper 12. And it's like, probably shouldn't be doing that when you're leading up to a Khabib fight, because
yeah,
that guy is going to test the limits of your cardio, and he does not drink, my friend.
Yeah,
you know,
and Connor's cardio is already like notoriously bad. So,
I mean, that's not fair, man. I think Connor's cardio is fine. His cardio is like a B+. He has just been in there against like monsters. You know,
see,
he got tired against a Diaz. So did everyone. Not named GSP.
Yeah. I've never thought that it was bad, but I never thought it was excellent. I would give it probably, I don't know, C+, B-. He's not somebody that you think of whenever you think of cardio, but it's also not like, oh, God, like he gasses every single time he fights.
He went 5 rounds with Nate Diaz. He won a 5-round fight with Nate Diaz. His cardio is at least a B+. He went 4 rounds of getting mauled before he got face cranked.
Yeah.
Khabib was trying to kill him for like over 15 minutes, and he couldn't. That's not lack of cardio. That is a shining star of cardio. You know, like eventually everybody gets tired, man. It's sort of like when everybody was saying that thing about Kevin Lee, whenever he got by Dos Anjos.
Yeah.
They were like, oh, it's just his cardio is garbage. And I'm like, no, man, he fought to exhaustion. He was trying to win, and he gave it everything he had. And then when he emptied his tank, it was empty. It actually was empty. And then he was dead. He had nothing left to give and got embarrassed. Like, it's not a lack of heart, and it's not a lack of, like, most guys won't do that. Do you see what I'm saying? Most guys won't try for that last shot that he tried for. Most guys will be like, I'm too tired. I need to stand here with my hands up. And then they get finished. And it's like, look at that heart. Do you see what I'm saying? Most guys don't keep trying to win the fight until every ounce of their energy is gone. Most guys are like, I'm going to try and weather this and catch a second wind. And then there's no way that's going to happen.
I understand what you're saying, but I think that what a lot of people see is after Lee takes that shot and then he fails, and then you just kind of see like the collapse of like exhaustion afterwards because he fails, and it's like, like there's kind of the lack of cardio.
Yes.
But like I understand what you're saying.
I'm not saying that it's not a lack of cardio, but it is definitely not like quit.
Yeah.
That was the original like comment, was like, oh, he's just got a lot of quit in him. And I'm like, I don't think it's quit. And I don't really think it's a lack of cardio. I think it's a lack of management of gasoline that you're putting in the engine. You know what I'm saying? Like, Diaz got tired in that first round because he wasn't pacing himself correctly. And even though he has unlimited, ridiculous cardio, he got tired. So, yeah, that Kevin Lee doesn't know how to pace himself. It's not that he doesn't have good cardio. And he was also fighting a pace machine. Some guys push a pace that's you can't keep up with it. Even though you have good cardio, you're still going to drown.
I got you. I guess I just kind of equate those as like very similar. So I'll kind of throw it out interchangeably.
I understand.
Yeah, okay.
It's not wrong. I mean, like, I understand what you're saying, but I want to clarify it.
Yeah.
My position on it when I'm like, yeah, sure, yeah.
Right. So looking to the future for Diaz and Pettis, who are some potential opponents that you have in mind for both those guys?
Well, Diaz is going to fight Masvidal.
Yeah, that's what I wrote down for mine.
And the winner's going to get a title shot.
And
That's
then
what's
Leon
going to
Edwards
happen.
is somewhere complaining about it.
Well, Leon Edwards is probably going to fight Woodley.
Okay.
And he's probably going to beat Woodley, if you ask me.
I would take him, especially if he's an underdog, and that's plus money.
Yeah. He's going to be an underdog.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he's going to win.
I think you will
But-
too. I don't think you're crazy on that pick.
Yeah. And then, so Usman fights Colby, and Nate
Which-
fights.
Dana said that fight is like materializing. So
Good.
yeah,
I thought it was already materialized. I thought
Well,
there
that's
was
what-
no choice past the, like, when they did the press like after that Robbie win, and they had the sandwich conversation. I
Yeah.
thought that was like a metaphor, you know,
Yeah,
and they were going to fight.
What I meant by that is, according to Dana, if I remember it correctly, that they're actually like pins are being put to paper now, and it's starting to get finalized as in like venue. And he said that it will happen before the end of the year. So you can take that for what it's worth. I know it's coming from Dana. So
Yeah. I mean, that's cool, but they should totally have a Food Network show, like a sandwich competition.
Or just do like the Ultimate Fighter, but it's like a cooking edition with those two as coaches.
Yeah.
So you somehow
Absolutely.
mix, like sandwich making and fighting.
No, you could have it be the Ultimate Cooker, and Uriah Hall could be on there because he had the whole, what's that word for a professional cooker? You mean a chef? Stop bullying me. I don't like being
Yeah.
bullied. What? What's going on? Are you about to
Yeah.
kick an HVAC repairman into like death, living death? Like that's legitimately like the thing Ken Shamrock was talking about, living death.
Yeah, that's the definition of prime time, though. That's what he does best. So,
Good.
we're going back to Diaz and Pettis to close mine out. Totally agree with you. Diaz versus Masvidal has to happen for like the most gangster fight in UFC history. And then for Pettis, I was thinking maybe Neil Magny because they're both coming off losses, both kind of towards the end of the rankings or the bottom of the rankings. I think it's a pretty good win for Pettis. That way they can kind of, if they ever need to like start hyping him up again, they can.
Here's what
I
you
think that he
do.
gets by Magny.
Here's what you do. You say, you've failed us, so it's teammate versus teammate. Askren versus Pettis. Pink
Well-
slip derby. Loser leave town match.
They have some beef going on right now. Did you see that on Twitter?
Well, do it then.
Well, listen to this. So there was a video that came out with Pettis was hanging out, like, it looked like in a locker room with a couple guys, and Yoel was there.
Yeah.
And
I
so,
tweeted-
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because Pettis was like, yeah, how's Jorge? And he was like, yeah, I know that Ben's my teammate, but like that made me really happy. Like
Yeah.
I was really happy for George. And then Ben was tweeting him back, talking about how like I don't need fake friends and all this stuff.
Good. Do it.
So you never know what could happen.
That'd be a great fight. Askren will win that fight.
You think so?
Askren will win that fight, or it will be Masvidal Part 2. Because if
Yeah.
there's someone who's going to throw some ridiculous flying something, probably going to be Anthony Pettis.
Yeah.
Also, it's interesting to see Askren do what Askren does to Anthony Pettis. Because Anthony
of his
Pettis
ground
is
game?
guard. Yeah, Anthony Pettis is not someone you want to take down.
Right.
You know, he's very active and really like, yeah, I think that's a good fight. And I think that Ben wins a decision 30-27.
Gotcha. Well, he's going to have an interesting fight coming up against Damian Maia because those two are going to be fighting later this year. So it's going to be exciting to see how, well, exactly like what you just said, how he plays into Damian Maia's ground game.
Totally.
Because
Yeah,
we all know
I mean-
that fight's going to the ground. So
I think it might.
do
Something
you think
tells
they
me that, like,
stand?
something weird tells me that, like, maybe Damian Maia, like, boxes him up.
Seriously?
I don't know. Like, it depends on. I guess if Damian Maia started boxing him up, he would just shoot. Regardless,
Yeah.
he'd just be like, out the window. I don't care. It's better than getting knocked out. I'm just gonna shoot.
Right.
But like, Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I feel like Ben Askren wins that fight though. I feel
I
like
think
Ben
that he
Askren
does
should
too.
be a pretty big betting favorite. But if it's like anything more than like 2.5 to 1, put some money on Maya to get that tappy tap.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. Back to UFC 241. Third fight of the night. Paulo Costa defeats Yoel Romero via unanimous decision.
Did he?
Ben, obviously we were there watching it together. You scored the fight 29-28 Romero, as did I. Why do you think the judges gave it to Paulo Costa?
Because they rewarded the person moving forward, not necessarily the person doing the more effective striking or the person who was really evading 90% of the punches' effectiveness a lot of the time. Like rolling with punches, getting out of the way, never really truly being in danger.
Sticking his
Uh,
tongue out.
yeah, being able to do things like that in the middle of a fist fight.
Yeah.
But that doesn't win you around. This like look at it statistically. Like it's close, but I feel like my eyes and the stats do not belie my opinion. Also,
Yeah.
a lot of people agree with my opinion who also watched that fight.
Right.
That Yoel won, but oh well. My thought was this is Condit versus Diaz in reverse. Like if they had said that Diaz won against Carlos Condit, then I'd be fine with saying Costa won against Yoel Romero because Diaz walked forward and it wasn't like he never hit Carlos Condit. It was just that Carlos Condit was able to get out of the way of most of what he was throwing, mess his face all up, land more punches, but Diaz never stopped walking forward.
Mm-hmm.
So Diaz wins the fight. No, that's not what happened. But that is what happened in Costa versus Romero.
Right. What I found strange was how, which Yoel always fights defensive. I mean, that's just his style. Always, like we talked about, kind of looks like he's gassed with the way that he breathes out of his mouth. But I really don't understand why he invited Costa to the middle of the octagon in the third round when he totally had a chance to finish the fight. Because it looked like Costa was badly hurt.
Yeah.
And then he just kind of backs away. And Dana White even mentioned it in the post-fight press conference. How it was just kind of odd that he did that. Especially in a fight as close as that one, which apparently was scored 2-0 at that point for Costa.
Well, that's the first problem.
Which part?
That all three scorecards had it 2-0 for Costa going into the third. Because everybody in that building and everybody that was in that corner of both sides would tell their fighter, you got to win the third round, man. Like, it's not it's anybody's fight. I mean, you want to finish, but like I guarantee you that if Yoel Romero's corner was like if he just taken him down and rode him, like dominated him wrestle wise, positionally, doesn't finish him, doesn't really come close to finishing him, but gets him all tied up on the ground. Nothing gets done other than Yoel dominant position. So it's a clear 10-9 round. So then Costa wins. And it's like, what? That's terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Yoel won the third round. I feel confident in saying I don't think that's a controversial statement.
That
he
had
won
to be
the third round.
Yeah.
Right. So all three judges were like, Costa won the first 2 rounds.
Yep.
And I'm like, that's not right, man. That's not right. That's not correct.
Yeah. Well, he kind of took a page out of DC's book, and that I feel like he really could have used his wrestling a lot more, but he kind of wanted to just be in there and stand and bang. Because I feel like Yoel Romero's best is better than Paulo Costa's best. I think at the end of the day, if we're to like look at those two as complete fighters, I just feel like Yoel could have wrestled him, and it would have been boring, and we wouldn't have gotten an exciting fight. But
I sort of think that Yoel doesn't want to full-on grapple very often, because when Yoel full-on grapples for very long, he's going to, if they wind up standing again, he's going to be in a like Tim Kennedy situation where
Okay.
he's just done and he needs more time and he doesn't have it, so he has to cheat to get it. You know, like
Yeah.
that kind of situation where it's like, oh, that's so bad. His muscle suit has failed him. This is the worst. So I
Right.
think he's like, I'm never going to get to that if I just kind of hang out on my feet and occasionally explode like a crazy person. I'll always be at full power. 20 minutes into this thing, I'll be able to throw a crazy flying knee. That's not true if we go dig for underhooks for half an hour, like, or for 10 minutes. Like,
Yeah.
my arms are going to gas on this guy. And, like, I think that Whitaker is a big reason for that. Like, he was in there with this guy that's just unfinishable. And it's like, if that keeps going, Whitaker's going to get the better of him.
Yeah.
You know? So,
what would you say is your main takeaway from that fight?
that anytime there's an undefeated fighter in the UFC, there's usually going to be a decision on that streak that you're like, he didn't win that fight.
Okay.
Because you remember that, it was
Well,
Reyes?
Yep.
When did
Reyes
Reyes?
and Ozdemir.
He didn't win that fight. Ozdemir beat him. Absolutely. That was clear as day. You know? Go watch Michael Bisping. Go watch Michael Bisping and Matt Hamill. They're both undefeated when they did that. So they just went full-blown goofball on that decision.
Yeah, both of those are clear as day as to who the winners were.
That decision got announced. That was in England. It got announced, and they booed. They booed Michael Bisping in England when he won because he didn't win.
Yeah.
Like,
too bad Hamill couldn't appreciate that moment.
Yeah, that's true. His opponent was welcomed with the same thing years after victory or defeat.
Yeah. So, looking at Yoel and Paulo Costa, who do you think are the best opponents for them moving forward?
Costa should fight someone that he's going to lose to. Like, he should fight like Kelvin. But I know that Kelvin's tied up with Till.
So, hold on. You don't think that Costa deserves the winner of Whitaker and Adesanya after that? Because those two guys are fighting at UFC 243. Well, I mean, you might think
Do you really think that Paulo Costa is going to hang with either of those two guys?
I think that he hangs with Adesanya a lot better than he does with Whitaker. But I still think, regardless
he's got to get out of the way.
My opinion on it,
he's got to move better against Adesanya. I feel like Adesanya is it's gonna look like it won't be on this level. Like, don't let me overstate it here, but like, Paulo Costa kind of just walks forward and has a bunch of power and has fought people so far that while Yoel Romero is able to like stick his tongue out, he never is quick enough to, I mean, he countered him a couple times, but like, if Yoel Romero can stand there with his hands down or barely, dodging punches, get ready to enter the Matrix whenever he fights Stylebender.
Wow.
Like get ready for it to be like Forrest Griffin-y, like, as far as just being like, no, I'm not going to let you hit me with that, except he's going to hit back, as opposed to do what Yoel Romero did and just kind of not get punched and circle away. Like, he's going to kick him in the leg or something over and over again and ruin his day or something, because Costa is a good wrecking ball. He's good at moving forward and beating people up. But very few people have really challenged him on countering him properly. I feel like Yoel showed you what that Stylebender fight would look like.
Okay, I guess I would counter that with, I feel like Kelvin showed you a good idea of what Costa could do to Adesanya, and the fact that, like, if Kelvin's gonna get in there and hit Adesanya with clean shots, imagine Paulo Costa getting in there with a lot more power doing that to Adesanya.
Let me tell you something. Kelvin Gastelum will knock Paulo Costa out in 2 minutes if they have a fight. That fight will go horribly wrong for Paulo Costa. He's Houston Alexander, man. I promise you. He's going to get exposed.
I think that he would get exposed against Whitaker. But Adesanya, I honestly don't know. I don't know who I would pick for that fight.
Adesanya's going to look like Anderson Silva in that fight against Costa.
Man. Costa
will not look like that against Whitaker.
Even though I think that Yoel won the fight, Costa impressed me in that fight a lot. Because we both had a Romero winning like beforehand. Like I said, I'd gone back and forth on it, but like at the end of the day, I chose Romero. I thought that Paulo would gas, which he did. He was pretty tired in that third round. But
yeah, so was
I don't
Yoel.
know. So
yeah,
I don't know, but I think that regardless of like my opinion, Luke Thomas's opinion, Chael's opinion, anybody's opinion, I think that he deserves the next crack for the middleweight shot after Whitaker and Adesanya get it settled.
Man,
because he's the only clear-cut contender now. Because Kelvin's coming off a loss, Yoel's coming off 2 losses, Chris Weidman's moved up, Rockhold moved up, and he lost his fight at 205. You have Hermanson, but he's fighting Cannonier. So to me, it's like clear-cut for Paulo Costa to take that next shot.
I guess. He's going to get destroyed, though.
Yeah, we'll see when the time comes, I guess, how it all plays out. Yoel Romero, who do you think would be a good opponent for him next?
I want to see him fight Rousimar Palhares.
Yeah, I saw your tweet before we started this. Why Palhares?
Because that's another person in a muscle suit, and he's crazy in a different way. And I want to see him roll around on the ground. Because I want to see if Yoel, I really feel like Yoel would probably like flying knee him or something.
Yeah.
Like he's not going to go to the ground with Palhares. He's just not going to do it. He's not going to allow that to happen because he doesn't want to get something broken even though he's tapping, you know. But that's never going to happen. So Yoel's probably going to retire, right?
I don't know. I mean,
he's like 42.
Yeah. He's definitely a couple fights away if he's not going to retire after this one. But the fight that I had in mind was him versus Jacare too, because we were supposed to see it at the beginning of the year.
That's a great fight.
And then Hermanson came in, so they're both coming off losses. Might as well put them in there together now.
Yep, absolutely.
So Ben, that kind of wraps up the big 3 fights of UFC 241. Was there anything else that you wanted to touch on with UFC 241?
Nope.
All right, we'll go ahead and get into our listener questions. The first one, we got a voice message from our friend Buddy from MMA Marks. Here is what he has to say.
Seth, Ben, what's up? It's your boy Buddy at MMA Marks. Lots of shocking outcomes last night. Ben, how'd you think Sunset looked? I think he looked pretty fucking terrible. Yeah, but I was very shocked about Devontae Smith, how he got knocked out. But the question I have for you guys is, do you think there's going to be any shockers this weekend coming up? I know for sure that I'm not going to see the fights. They're like 3 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning for the main card for us, and I'm sure that it's a little different for anybody in different time zones. But I want to know if you guys are troopers and going to stay up that late to watch these fights.
So that was sent in, from Buddy from MMA Marks.
No, I will not. I will not be staying up to watch fights at 3 in the morning. That will not happen. Sun Tzu, I mean, he lost. He didn't get knocked out like your lock did, but yeah, he lost. He had his moments, you know. I mean, like, yeah, he didn't look good. He didn't look like what I needed him to look like. He didn't look like what I thought he was going to look like. One other little quick thought that has to do with that. Sandhagen versus Cruz, please.
It needs to happen
right now. I want
it happen, Dana.
I want it, and I want him to like do a like skit where they both like put their hand up at the same time, like it's a mirror, you know, like in the cage. Like do the exact same thing. But anyway, yeah,
yeah,
man.
So,
I mean,
well, the card that he was talking about, we're actually taking a break because there's no fights this weekend. But it's the end of August. I want to say it's August 31st. Yes, August August 31st. It's the card that's headlined by Jessica Andrade and Willie Zhang. I guess that's how you pronounce her first name, is Willie. So, not the best fight card to stay up and watch.
Yeah, she beat, but it's got a belt on the line. That's a problem.
Women's strawweight.
Yeah, women's strawweight, where the girl who's fighting her, she's the girl that beat Angela Hill, correct?
Zhang.
Who didn't beat Angela Hill?
She's the girl. She's coming off the Tisha Torres win.
Oh, I'm getting her mixed up. Okay. Yeah, wait a minute. She's coming off the Tisha Torres win.
Yeah, she fought Tisha Torres at UFC 235 earlier in March of this year.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I remember that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, she's pretty good. I mean, but I think she's going to lose. Andrade's going to have her way. Yeah.
Yep. All right, next question. This comes from Wicked.MMA on Instagram. You guys know him from our last episode. He said, what do you think is next for Daniel Cormier? Retirement or Miocic's trilogy? If the trilogy, who wins? So make that one quick. What you got for him?
He should retire. If the trilogy happens, he will win.
All right. Yeah, it'd probably be best for him to retire, but selfishly, I want to see him fight Miocic again. If they fight, I think that Stipe probably takes it again. Next question comes from Alone Is Me on Instagram. He said, who do you think really won, Romero or Costa? I had it 29-28 Romero, and most people agree. We're right there with you, buddy. We could totally agree with that. That's how we both had it.
100%.
This one comes from Man of Mayhem at Fabian Gibb on Twitter. He said, how do you think Stipe does against Ngannou in a rematch?
I think he does pretty well, honestly. That's just so dangerous. It's just so dangerous. I think that if everything goes to plan, he wins. But I think that if everything went to plan, Cain Velasquez beats Ngannou. I think that
right.
Like I think that if everything goes to plan, that Curtis Blades is able to just wrestle him.
Yeah.
But I don't know. He's got so much power.
I know it's hard to pick.
I think Stipe wins 4 rounds. He loses the first round and wins the next 4.
So pretty much a copy of the first fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, Stipe's definitely the more conservative answer, but I really want to say that Ngannou takes that one. But I feel like Stipe's the smarter answer there. Next question from Fighting With Myself podcast at FWM_pod, our buddy Juice, coming from him on Twitter. He said, who would win in a fight between Spider-Man and Wolverine? I'll go ahead and take this one first. I'm a huge Spider-Man fan. I've never seen Wolverine, but I don't have to because Spider-Man's good enough. He would beat Wolverine.
Well, in an actual, comic book fight, there's no chance that Spider-Man would beat Wolverine, because Wolverine is made he has adamantium in his bones, and his mutant healing factor doesn't allow him to die. Yeah, man. Also, he's got giant metal claws. Here's the thing. In a UFC cage, it's a cage fight. He's not allowed to use his claws. He's got to wear gloves. And Spider-Man also has to wear gloves. I feel like Spider-Man could win a decision. He could land more strikes and not get hit. Just kind of jump around for 15 minutes and poke him. He would look exactly the same after it. Spider-Man, if he ever got touched, would be hurt. He would be bloodied. But Wolverine's not going to knock out Spider-Man with a punch. So, Spider-Man by decision. Take the over on the rounds. Really, is what you should do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was going to say any comic book questions that we get definitely need to go to Ben. I've never read. Well, I've read one comic book that Ben gave me. What were those called? That series?
I tried to get you to read this comic book series called Slots. Because
Slots.
It has no supernatural anything. It's just about an old gambler grifter guy, and it's good. Everybody should read Slots. Yeah.
Yep. final 2 questions that come from Aaron Priest at AFVet03 on Twitter. He says, our first question is, after how reluctant DC was to do an immediate rematch, if Stipe is offered to do the trilogy, should he take it or make DC wait?
He should take it.
I think they should take it too. Well, I mean, smart answer would be make him wait because DC's only getting older, and it's a lot bigger factor. But
you're going to make him wait
and
then get knocked out by Ngannou.
That's a good point.
You're going to make him wait and screw up your payday. You're going to do what DC did and not fight John Jones, and then you can't.
Yeah. I don't know.
They need to bring in Brock Lesnar is what they need to do.
Have him fight Stipe or DC.
Yeah. Stipe should fight Bobby Lashley, the other WWE guy who fought in Bellator.
Yeah.
And got stood up out of Mount against Chad Griggs. Yeah. Anyway.
Final question.
Yeah.
Who does Costa match up with better, Stylebender or Bobby Knuckles? I say Stylebender. Ben, who you got?
He matches up better with Whitaker because Whitaker will engage him in the way that he wants to engage.
Gotcha.
You get more of a dice roll with Whitaker. Even though Whitaker's like, you're probably not going to knock him out. If anybody is, it's probably going to be Costa. You know, like if anybody's got the power to hurt him real good, it's Costa. If it's not Yoel, you know.
Yeah.
So, okay. And I'm telling you, Stylebender's going to tune him up.
I guess that's where we disagree.
He's going to flow like water and look real good.
We'll see how it all plays out.
Conor versus Alvarez.
That's your prediction for Adesanya versus Costa?
Yeah,
it looks
absolutely.
Like that?
That's exactly what it looks like. Alvarez has that power, and he's got dangerous hands. Don't get it twisted. Go ask Justin Gaethje about them hands. You know, like go ask Michael Chandler. Like he is good. He is top level, and he looked dumb against Conor McGregor. He looked he got tuned up.
Fish out of water.
Because of the styles. Yeah, exactly. He looked like he didn't know what he was doing. And it was because of the speed and the style, and it just matched up perfectly. And Costa will run into that with Adesanya.
I don't know, man. I just think that Adesanya has too many holes in his game after the Kelvin fight. I just feel like it's going to be a lot of easy openings for Costa to end it early, and that he won't even be able to do any of his like Anderson Silva-esque stuff.
Okay. So in the fight with Whitaker, Adesanya always had the understanding that the fight with Gastelum. In the fight with Gastelum, Adesanya always had the understanding that Gastelum is very dangerous on the ground. If Gastelum gets on top of him on the ground, he'll get on his back and choke him, man. He is great at finding your neck and choking you out. So he always knew that, and so he's always got to be worried about a shot. You can stand however you want against Paulo Costa. He ain't shooting. You can plant and you can tee off because he's not going to grab your knee and take you down.
I agree with that. I just think that Costa poses a threat on the feet.
He's always poses a threat, but like
as in like I think that he has a pretty good chance of catching him with something. Because I mean, like he dropped Yoel, and I think that if he drops Yoel, he definitely drops Adesanya.
I think it's easier to punch Yoel Romero than it is to punch Adesanya.
I think so too, but I don't know. I think that he'll expose him.
Do you think that Adesanya moves better than Yoel? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I do.
Do you think that Yoel Romero was able to move in a way that he was able to stick his tongue out and kind of just do dumb things a lot?
Well, Yoel had a ton of those shots, and he
got
dropped
touched
like
with
twice.
a lot of those. He got touched with a lot of those shots. He didn't necessarily get flush caught with but a few, and he did get dropped.
Yeah.
When he got caught, which is important to remember as well. But a lot of it was just rolling with it and getting barely grazed and trying to let him punch out. That was the thing that he realized, is that he's not going to punch out. So
I don't know. This makes me excited to see it the more that we talk about it. as much as I want Robert Whitaker to win, I really do want to see the matchup of Adesanya and Costa. So, like I always say, we'll see how it plays out. So, Ben, as always, thank you so much for coming on. And I guess I'll see you next time.
Absolutely. Peace.
Before I give the outro to this episode, I wanted to answer 2 listener questions that were sent in that we didn't have time to answer during the podcast. I asked the question pretty late about sending in listener questions because we recorded the podcast a little earlier in the day than we usually do. So this first one comes from the MMA Pursuit on Instagram. He says, should Yoel move up to light heavyweight or stay at middleweight? I personally would like to see him move up to light heavyweight. I think that he would have some success there. But Ben has said that he doesn't really think that he would have much success there. Now, we can talk about the next episode if I'm not remembering that right. But from my conversation with him, that was the thing that stood out. All right, and then this next question comes from the guys over at Combat Sports 101, which you can follow them on Twitter at Combat Sports 101. Todd and Jeff, a.k.a. the Rhino and the Essence, are two really great guys that hit me up on Twitter. Super nice, super friendly. They're all about starting a relationship with us. There's some guys from Michigan. Please check out their show, Combat Sports 101. It's one of the most professional sounding ones that I found kind of in our tier of podcasts. I really like those guys. They always have a good energy, good vibe about them. Very upbeat, positive, laughing. Just two great guys with a great podcast. They asked, how do you see Costa faring versus Israel or Bobby Knuckles? So you guys heard a lot about that in the episode. I think that he does good against Adesanya, and I feel like he does good against Whitaker, but I feel like Whitaker wins. Obviously, you know that Ben thinks that Adesanya tunes him up, and that he probably fares a lot better against Whitaker than Adesanya. So that will conclude episode number 21 of The Fight Addicts. If you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts or another podcasting app, be sure to subscribe to the show. That way you don't miss any new content from us, and leave us a 5-star review if you enjoyed this episode. If you're listening on YouTube, make sure that you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell. That way you never miss hearing from us. As always, follow us on social media at The Fight Addicts, and follow mine and Ben's personal Twitter accounts at TFA_Seth and at TFA_Ben. Thank you guys so much for listening. We really appreciate it, and we will see y'all next time.